New Country 1430 AM and 1073 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnikins. This is the WRDN Morning Farm Reports. And joining us this morning, Scott Heiberger. He is with the National Children's Center for Rural and Agriculture Health and Safety. And today, we're going to talk about some grants that are available. And thank you to our newsmaker sponsors, including Compeer Financial, Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, Elsivia Co-op, Anabas-Silo Osteoplastics, the Wisconsin Farmers Union, and also Synergy Co-op. And Scott, thank you for joining us today. Well, these grants are kind of an offshoot of some grants that happened actually a few years back. Tell us about them.
Yeah, for about 20 years, we've offered the term we've used as mini grants that community groups, governmental organizations, individuals, um, uh, basically individuals and organizations can apply for and use to work on child ag safety and health projects regarding injury prevention, on the farm for kids who live on farms, visit farms, or otherwise work on farms. And they've been called mini grants. This year, we're calling them emerging issues grants. But basically, the reason behind it is still pretty much the same, that we're trying to offer startup money or seed money for good ideas regarding safety that maybe a group or an individual wouldn't normally have, something that can get them started and hopefully come up with a project or a outreach intervention that could be used by other groups around the country.
And really, there's all kinds of different issues, but one of them has been the pandemic, and COVID-19 could be one of those issues, right?
Yeah, and not so much as far as the disease and the transmission itself, although it could be, but there's offshoots from that. Last spring when everything hit the fan in March and kids were staying home from school, emergency rooms were saying that the injuries they were seeing coming into emergency rooms was like sort of what normally would show up in June or July when the kids would normally get out of school. So you had kids staying home in March. You had families with no, plan as far as childcare. Parents are trying to juggle their off-farm jobs with watching kids, with farming, really quite a stretch. And so that was one of the offshoots of this pandemic where health and safety issues emerge, hence the name emerging issues grants, that we're looking for ideas of how to deal with that. Are there childcare solutions? Are there, should there be heightened efforts to work with parents and, now that they've got all these balls in the air that they're juggling and all these responsibilities that they didn't used to have before at that time of year. So yeah, there very well could be some proposals that come out of this that are related to the pandemic, because even when this one finally works its way through and all the different mutations work its way through the population, it seems like all of us, agriculture and society, need to be ready in case we have to pivot and do this again sometime. But other topics for possible proposals, it doesn't have to be related to COVID-19, of course. It could be other emerging issues related to changes in farming and how that affects how we do our jobs and how that affects children. If you're farming various parcels of land, further away than you used to, and you got a teenager driving more equipment on roads, maybe there's some intervention that should be done regarding that. Maybe there's other interventions related to the changing ways in which we farm. So it's really wide open. And also, it doesn't have to even be emerging issues. If a person goes in and starts reading some of the language of this call for proposals, it could be issues that are just persistently a problem. Tractor rollovers aren't a new issue, but they're still a problem. Grain entrapments aren't a new issue, but maybe we need to find out new ways to reach people and to try to change health and safety behaviors. So it's there's a pretty wide array of projects a person could put in for.
Talking with Scott Heiberger. He's with the National Children's Center for Rural and Agriculture Health and Safety, talking about some grants available to address emerging issues in childhood agricultural health. Scott, there's two types of grants. Tell us about that.
We have grants that are research grants, and that would be up to $25,000 an organization could apply for. We also have grants that are considered outreach grants. So that would be a situation more where, you know, we kind of know what the information is and what the safety information is. It's a matter of sort of repackaging that and reaching people. And those outreach grants, they could go up to $15,000. The outreach grants, it's actually that's a new category. In the past, when these were called mini grants for about 20 years, we tended to call these research grants and kind of looking for something new. But so $25,000 or $15,000, and you know, as far as tips, groups thinking about putting in for one of these grants, it would be helpful to work with another group or to put your project inside or piggyback on a larger organization. Maybe there's a commodity group or an insurance company or FFA or some larger group that you could work with so that they could help multiply your message or distribute your surveys or distribute your safety interventions, et cetera. And another thing that would help with these proposals, another little tip, you know, the National Children's Center has a lot of really good resources that we put together over the last 10 or 15 years. These are safety resources that we know work. They're grounded in science. They were trialed, you know, with input from farmers, et cetera. Where we could use some help, though, for people thinking about proposing some outreach or research ideas, is taking those resources, packaging them, choosing the right medium, choosing the right cultural considerations, and then taking those guidelines, sort of translating them for their particular audience. So, you know, their particular audience could be an Anabaptist population. Maybe you've got a relationship with a local community, and there's a sort of a rash of certain types of incidents that could use an intervention. Well, maybe you could look at what the National Children's Center has, work with that community, sort of translate it into something that would be easily consumed by that community. Another example last year was a project, a mini grant project that was done by the National Center for Farm Worker Health. And they took some of our existing materials from our Cultivate Safety website. They sort of translated those into about a 10-minute video with Latino teenagers conveying the information, doing the video, and then there was a follow-up test afterwards, or you know, a little quiz you could take to make sure that you absorb the information. But that's a good example of taking tried and true scientific injury prevention methods and packaging it in a way to reach a certain type of audience.
Talking with Scott Heiberger. He's with the National Children's Center for Rural and Agriculture Health and Safety about some grants available to address emerging issues in childhood agricultural health. So, Scott, who can apply for these grants and when do they need to apply?
Deadline's always important. October 1st is when we need to get a letter of intent. And so that's just a very short note saying, hey, I've got this idea. I'm going to be applying, you know, keep me in mind. The actual application deadline is November 1st. So October 1st, a letter of intent, and November 1st for the deadline. And if a person goes to the website, they'll see some names and contact information on there. And I can give my number at the end of this interview as well if people have information for putting together or need information for putting together their grants. And as far as the people that can apply, it's open to community-based organizations, public or private institutions, units of local or state government, tribal government. Basically, any of these organizations within the United States are eligible to apply.
And you can visit marshfieldresearch.org for more information. Scott, if they'd like to give you a call, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, anyone is welcome to give me a call with any questions about this, and they can reach me on my cell at 715-207-1604.
Again, that number again, 715-207-1604. That's Scott Heiberger with the National Children's Center for Rural and Agriculture Health and Safety. Again, you can visit marshfieldresearch.org for more information. You're listening to the WRDN Morning Farm Report.